Hello there. How are we all? Oh, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm just going to make sure my phone's turned down. Why is that not working? No. Okay. Right. All set. Can you all hear me okay? I can see there's a few of you here. So we've got Linda and Tracy and Jill. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Carol. Every single week I always worry just to make sure that I'm not sitting here chatting by myself. Okay, perfect. Oh, great. There's a few of you here. Right, today, it's nice to be here, actually. I haven't managed to set foot into my craft room all week. It's been one of those weeks where I've had all sorts of unexpected twists and turns. And yeah, the end of last week didn't turn out the way that I expected, but it's all good, all good. Hi, Mum. How are you? How are you all? Oh, good. You can see and hear me as well. That's a good start. And you're on YouTube, actually, and Jill and Carol are on Facebook, so that's perfect. Everybody can see me in all places. Hi, Patricia. Hello, Tina. How are you? Okay, so yeah, I haven't had the chance to sit down and do very much at all, really. But what I thought I'd do while I'm still waiting for my Christmas goodies to arrive, which are sitting in some post office depot in Ireland somewhere. They're obviously having a play with them themselves before they're letting me have a go. I thought I'd have a play with the Betterpress, and I haven't actually had a chance to get round to using the script text press plate yet. It's still on Lisa's website, as are the butterfly Betterpress plates as well. And what I thought I'd do, because I know Cheryl's done a couple of different videos with these before, I thought I would bring in and use these Betterpress plates with the compositions die set here that we have. And again, this is available still on Lisa's website. I think it's limited stocks, but many of you will have this already, perhaps. If you haven't, then I can introduce this to you as well. Basically, the compositions range of dies, of which there are, I think, 6 or 8, I can't remember. And I think there are more coming, actually. It's basically an ideal way, firstly, to enter card making. Let's hold it there for you so you can see it, because it's basically a card maker's layout for you. We used to see a lot of these challenges actually online, specifically, where you'd get a layout and somebody would give you a layout for the week, and then you would use that layout to create your card. And it's a really good basis for one if you don't have if all your ideas have sort of upped and left you for that week, which happens to the best of us. Sometimes if you don't know where to get started, sometimes if you've got so much to do, you need just a layout, just to think, right, I'm going to follow this format. I'm going to use this larger rectangle and layer these smaller rectangle, circles and bow on it. And I'm just going to follow this same format on each and every project that I make, but I'm going to alter the design papers that I use for each of these layers. So basically what Lisa has done, she's created that layout format for us, but in die forms. So we have got the ability to use any of our design papers, any cardstock. We can create our own backgrounds, our own cardstock, and then die cut them with this. But basically, we have the formula here. We can mix and match the dies from this set with other dies from other sets. If you want a bow from here and perhaps a butterfly from another set, or a particular shaped heart from another set. They are also really useful dies because you could be creating a completely other different project, but you want a bow, and that bow here from this set would be just perfect. So you can just take those elements out. Now with these composition sets, you get an awful lot for your money. This one in particular, I will show you, has... Now, I put mine onto magnetic sheets. Yours will come on a registration card. But you get an awful lot of die for your money. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I've got a couple over there. So probably 13 or 14 dies. You also get, as well as the inspiration on the front of the packaging, you also get an inspiration card, which gives you a couple of other different layouts. So you get 4 designs. So say if you are brand new to this and you're not quite sure how to arrange your papers, your die cut shapes on the page, you can follow any one of these dies until you get that confidence and you can start mixing and matching yourself. It won't take long by the time you sort of get into the flow of things. So I'm using set B, the hearts and bows composition set. And again, what I will do, and I'll get going with it now, is to actually show you how you can use the Betterpress plates. Again, I don't think you can ever have too many tutorials showing you on this sort of thing. So the Betterpress plates here, we have the text, the script text here, which is one large plate. You can see the size of it here. It's huge. You can see it against the size of my hand, and I do have big hands actually, but this is fabulous. So solid. This is great for all your backgrounds. And then we have this second set here, which is slightly different. You do have Betterpress plates, but the Betterpress plates are shaped as the butterflies that you have here. So you have 2 plates per butterfly, so you can create the background and the background color, the pink or the orange that you have here. And then you also have the plate which has all the butterfly detail. Now you can use both together, you can use one or the other. It's entirely up to you. I'll show you how you use them both together. And then you have the dies to cut out those individual butterflies. So as I say, you could just use the detailed butterfly and then die cut it out. You can just use the background butterfly and cut it out. That's entirely up to you. And there'll be lots of different opportunities to use the butterflies in all the different ways. And you also have the folded butterfly or the flying butterfly that you have here. You also have the Betterpress plates are essentially stamps, and you use the Betterpress platform, which I'll talk you through in a second, to stamp these images. So you also have the love stamp, which is this one here. It's lovely scroll text. So you have the option to stamp that and all of these wordings. So you have the words here, which are all combined onto one plate. And it's really small text. I won't bring it up to the camera because that won't focus, but I'll show you that later on. And then you have the dies to both cut out the text. So you do these all in one. So you have the dies to cut out the text. And if you remember, if you'd watched a couple of weeks ago, I've done a window box card, which was originally one of Tina's. Tina's here now. Tina's brilliant sample. There's a lot of requests on how it was made. So she kindly said that I could do a video tutorial, a live on it for you. And the, oh, excuse me. The pickets around the fence, the window box fence, were actually made from these dies here. So you would have seen me use just this die in particular, but today I'm going to use the whole set. And you also have the love stamp here, which is this one, and you do also have the die to cut that out as well, as you can see. So I will be using all of these today. So as well as the plates and the dies, actually, with this one here, if you'll see from the packaging, it says you have the registration plate, and that is a separate piece or a separate sheet that can easily be overlooked. Now, this isn't just a piece of packaging, which again, if you're not particularly used to using this system, and it's the first time I've used these registration sheets actually as well. so it can easily be overlooked. But we can see here, this is really, really important. This will help you to line up your two plates together. It will all make sense in a second. I'll be using that. There's a right and a wrong way round, so you would place this on the magnetic sheet, and as long as the writing on the bottom of these sheets reads correctly to you, you've got that the right way round. But you must make sure that you keep hold of that. If you think possibly that you may discard it or lose it, which, I mean, let's face it, easy done on our desks when we're in the middle of crafting, and because it is clear, you can easily put it down and lose it. It might be worth just photocopying or something, so at least you've got some record of it, I think. But to say, as long as you remember that you've got that, then that is the key to getting really pretty butterflies. So if you bring in these here, which is a couple that I've done already, and you can see I've got two-tone on them, and if I can bring these to the camera a little bit, I've actually used some of Lisa's colour shift and interference inks and metallic inks on here actually, so we can talk you through that and show you how we go. Now you have to bear with me with my voice a little bit. I think I've got hay fever. I can't work out if it's hay fever or cold. Definitely started off as hay fever, but it doesn't usually affect my throat quite the way that it has done at the moment. So it's strange. It's almost sore, but it sort of catches me a little bit and it gets really dry. So I'll try not to cough and splutter everywhere, but I can feel it catching in my throat a little bit. Right, so you can see on the side here all the sets that I'm using. So really it's only 3 sets today, which is really ideal if you're just starting out. There'll be a lot going on, but you can create some really, really lovely effects with just only 3 sets, which I think is really important to show. You don't need to, I mean, it's great fun to have everything all out and use bits and pieces of others, of all sets. When you're in full flow in a session, then that's great to do. But say equally, you can just pull out 2 or 3 of your favourite sets and you can create something really special. So I'm just going to take a drink, sorry. Okay. Right, so I'm going to take that slide away. Again, all of those details will be below the video a little bit later on. Oh, hi Helen, how are you? There's a few people joined as well, and got Valerie and Kathy, Sharon, Julia. Hi Sheena. Okay, so I'm going to take that away so we have the whole of my desk. Right, I'm going to create a version of this card. So as you can see, it's the elements from the composition set. I'm just going to switch cameras because I want to be able to show you this a little bit closer. So you can see on this layer here that I've actually used the text stamp, and I will be doing this on something lighter a little bit later on, just so as you can see the details. But I also wanted to show you that you can create something really quite subtle using these plates as well. So I'm using this lovely teal textured cardstock, and I've I used Lisa's metallic ink. So I used the Coastline to ink up the text plate and then stamp that onto that teal cardstock. There you go. And I think that gives a really subtle effect in the background. So sometimes you want these effects to be quite subtle. And actually, even without showing it to the light, you can still see that just as almost like a watermark in the background there. So I really like that effect. Actually, I'll show you the butterflies as well. Hopefully you can see if I tilt that and you look at the butterflies. What I've done, I've coloured the butterflies in the background with the yellow. So I used, what did I use? I used the Sunshine Yellow metallic for this yellow here. Then I run the butterfly through again, and I used the colour shift under the C to get the blue. And then when I run it through again, I also use the coastline to give you that butterfly detailing around the outside. And you can still see the mica and the metallic effects through that. So I know sometimes when you use stamps and you use like the color shift or the metallic, sometimes the metallic effect of the ink disappears. It doesn't happen with the Betterpress plates from what I can see so far. So I'm going for a yellow and blue based theme. I'm just going to swap camera there again. So these will be the colours that I'm using. I'm going to go with slightly paler colours this time, just so you can see the detail come through on the Betterpress plates. So I think what I'm going to do first, bring my Betterpress plate in. I've done other lives on this where I've spoken you through or talked you through this system. So if you are new to this, then what I might do later on under the video is just link those other ones so I can go straight into this today. So I'm going to create some of these butterflies. As I say, I'm going to create them in blues and yellows. You could just do one tone. You don't have to do the two-tone at all. So we start off creating the background for the butterfly. So this, you take your solid press plate and you put that on the no, we don't. Let's start that again, Claire. First of all, we take our registration plate. So remember this sheet, the acetate sheet. Now, if you notice, again, I'm just going to go onto camera 2. I'm going to pick up this. So you can see, obviously, the butterflies are in pink, but we also have the green border around the outside, and that corresponds really nicely or exactly to the A2 frame that's sitting within the Betterpress plate there. So when we pop this down, line up that green frame on your A2 frame on your magnetic plate, and then we can just use a little bit of tape just to keep that in place so we don't have that shift. And I'm using the tape that came with the Betterpress plate, so this yellow one. So we have that Betterpress plate in place there. Actually, I might keep it on this angle for you. It might be easier for you to see. So now we can bring in our dies, our Betterpress dies or plates, and we line up those dies within the registration that has been printed on the acetate there, like so. Now, as I say, if you just wanted to do black outlines for the butterflies, then you can just start off with these ones here as well, but I will do the backgrounds for you. So next thing we need to do is take a piece of our cardstock. Now I'm using Lisa Super Smooth. I have used textured on this before as well, so that would work, but I'm going to use these Super Smooth because I know that'll give me a really nice true colour impression. So I'm just going to cut my cardstock down to size here. So I'm just going to use the A2 markings on the top plate there and just mark that and then cut my cardstock down to size. Okie doke. So now when I press or place that cardstock over the top, you can see that it covers the registration plate and also the butterfly plates there. So we've got plenty of space to be creating on. What we need to do now is to attach this to the bottom of the top press. So I'm going to turn that over. Again, center your cardstock within the A2 frame on this, because then we know that that's going to correspond to the A2 positioning on the magnetic plate, which is really important for this because we do need the designs to match up. So as in the same way that the ultimate stamp plate allows you to keep things in position. This by taping this is the cardstock and keeping the magnetic plates on the base here, you're pretty much doing the same thing. So now we are ready to press. Okay, let's put that away. So I'm going for a two-tone butterfly, the yellow and blue. So I'm going to, I use the metallic sunshine ink on the butterflies, on these butterflies here, but I think what I might do, I'm going to use the lemon candy just to show you that you can use the interference on here as well. And I want the two-tone, so I'm going to do this in 2 passes because then I won't be contaminating my ink pads. And I'm going to do this a couple of different ways. So initially I'm just going to swipe down on the top half of the butterfly, on top half of both butterflies actually, like so. I'm not too worried about the bottom of the ink there not blending, because that will give a nice sort of join with the colours a little bit later on. So that's the ink placed on there. So now I can put the top press onto the to the platform. I can bring in Lisa's machine. Now the Betterpress, because this is also Spellbinders and Lisa's machine is in conjunction with Spellbinders, this fits absolutely perfectly. You don't have to have 2 passes through. You can just pass this once through and then take it out the other side or bring it back again just for a little ease. It's so easy to pass through. There's absolutely no pressure needed. And then we can take away our press plate. Ooh. And we can see that we have half of the butterfly stamped. Now what you can see, if you have a little look, you can actually see the impression of the rest of the butterfly underneath. So if that's the way that you wanted to leave that, you can now just die cut that and away you go. If I just turn that, you can also see the effect of the interference. You can see that other colour coming through there. So you absolutely do get the beauty of the special effect inks using these plates. So without unsticking everything or moving everything, you can then choose your second colour. So I'm going to use the colour shift under the C. So we want the bottom of the butterflies to be coloured this time. So I'm swiping upwards and that way as well. Now I quite like the texture that swipe creates, and you can see sort of that liney effect going on there. I quite like that. If you don't want that, then you can stamp the ink so you get a completely solid coverage of ink on there. So you do have the chance to blend your ink colour on there. If you wanted to, you could also stipple it with a brush to get a slightly different effect as well. Actually, I might do that. Where are we? Under the sea. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is say I've got the ink on there. I've got the stencil brush that I use for under the sea. So what I can do, just to sort of blend that in a little bit, I can just stipple that ink onto there. So you can actually use these as blending plates. I don't need to add any ink, obviously, because I added the ink on there. But if you wanted to, you could dip your brush into the ink pad and actually apply the ink onto the plates that way as well. But this may just give us a slightly different effect to what we had before. It might not, but that's the beauty of having a play. So again, what we do, we just pop the plate back on top of the platform there, and we can run that through our press again. So don't be fooled by how easy that goes through. It took me a good couple of goes to actually have the confidence that something was going to happen, because it goes through so easy. But we can now move that, take that plate off the top, and then we can see that we've got totally different looking butterflies. Because I done the blending and I pushed the blue up further, we've also now got the green look there. So obviously I've mixed blue and yellow, so I've made the green, but just imagine all the other colors that you could be creating. You can use shades or various shades of one color, so you can have a great graduation of perhaps light pink, medium pink down to dark pink. You know, you could really have some fun with this, and you can still see you have that mica effect coming through. So those butterflies have got a real iridescence to them. So now we have finished with these solid plates. So I'm going to take those away. I'm not going to move my cardstock here, and I'm not going to move my registration plate. I will, however, give it a little wipe. Not that that's essential. But say what you must say, the ideal thing now is to make sure that nothing that's taped is moved, particularly if you want to have the details of the butterfly stamped on top of this now. So what I'm going to do is bring in the detailed butterfly and sit those within those registration plates or places on that acetate there in exactly the same way as we did with those solid plates. Now, as I say, these butterflies are good to go. If you want them just like that and you want to die cut them, then you can do. Or we can add the details on top. And I think what I might do, I'm going to use the blue coastline on top of this. I don't want to go too harsh with black or brown details on top of there. That would look fabulous if you're making a really lovely crisp card. But I'm going to use the coastline, and I'll show you now, because I want to have a nice solid line. You can see that I can actually stamp or ink up these plates in the same way as I would a stamp, and I'd get an absolute, you know, a solid covering of ink there. Again, you could have done this on the solid plates and you could have had a solid butterfly. So you really can. That's moved actually from there. Let me just move that back for some reason. There we are. So we have our nice solid covering of ink on there. The butterflies are still sitting within their registration places. Nothing has moved from this plate, so I can fix that back on top again. And I can bring in Lisa's machine. I think the reason why that butterfly slipped underneath is because I had given the acetate a quick clean. And I think my cloth is a little bit damp because I had a good sort of clean up session a second ago. Just before I came onto air, I had ink everywhere. Okay, so again, that still goes through just as easily. So I can take my top layer off, and now we can see that we have the blue stamped on top of the butterflies there, and you can see that the blue blends really, really nicely because it's darker than the rest of the colours, and it's not quite as harsh. I think that just gives a lovely super effect. And if I can just tilt that, you can see the glistening on the metallic ink, and you can also see the mica coming through from the interference inks as well, which, I don't know, when you're creating butterflies, you really do want to have that special look on there, don't you? Right, so those butterflies are created. So I'm going to put this all to one side and we can die cut those out. Actually, I'm going to take the butterflies off of there, and I can remove my registration, put that back in the packaging actually so I don't lose that. Okay. There we are. That's what I think I don't want to lose. So I'm going to swap you over to the top camera there. Okay, there we are. So I can take these off. So the beauty of actually blending the ink onto the plates like this each time is that you are going to get a very different look each time you create. So imagine using yellows and oranges and pinks. It'd be also, you know, it looked lovely. That's really nice. Actually, I can see that better. And oh, you can see that now there. Look, you can see the effect on there. So even if the rest of your card is really quite clean and simple, the butterflies are really going to pack a punch as well. So I'm just going to take my usual scissors. I'm just going to trim those down slightly so I can die cut these out on my smaller machine, because I still haven't used Lisa's machine to die cut with. I must get myself some plates, actually, some spare plates. But I won't do that until I head over to the UK, I don't think, because my post is horrendous at the minute. Waiting months for things. Okay, so I've just taken the dies from the same set. Again, as I said before, you get all the dies and all the registration plates and Betterpress plates all in the one set. So I'm just tape that die into place, and I can run that through the machine, and that butterfly pops out, and that's perfect, as you'd expect. Okay, so we'd have the second die now. And we can die cut that out. So once you actually get using the Betterpress, it can be a little bit daunting using a new machine for the same first time. And before I got mine, I thought, do I really need one or not? But it really does give you some lovely effects, and it makes stamping so easy. So, okay, carefully remove the tape so I can use that again. So there we are. We have our butterflies. Our tonal effect butterflies as well, and perfectly overstamped and die cut out as well. Ooh. I think what I'm going to put the card together now, because I remember where we are with everything. Okay, so we're going to put together a version of this card, but I will be doing this with the paler colours. So I have my A5, no I haven't, it's an A6 card blank. So it's about 10.5 centimetres wide by just under 15 centimetres. And I'm going to be using this as a 10th-fold card. So I've just created and just cut by eye 2 layers to put onto the base of this card. And I'm just going to glue those on. So this is textured cardstock. So I can add that there. And put that one on top. Okay. So with this piece here, I'm going to use the Compositions die set. And I'm going to, let's make sure you can see that. Yeah, I'm going to use the largest of the dies here and just die cut that through. So I just need to go over to the other machine. Let's die cut that piece. Okay. Right, some things I've already die cut and other things I haven't, but there's a reason why I wanted to show you me die cutting that. What I want to do now is to, again, use the Betterpress plate and the text stamp to add some detailing onto this. So let's just move those out of the way for a second. Find my Betterpress piece large text plate. Now this is a huge plate, and you'll see that when I add this onto the magnetic thing, it pretty much covers the A2 frame that's sitting there. So I'm just going to, I don't think there's a particular right way round for this. There might be, I don't know. It's just going to be whatever looks right to your eye, I think. Right, just make sure I'm going to put that straight. Now I want to add this in this direction, landscape direction, onto my card. So obviously I want the text to be running along this way. So it's going to be sitting on the card here, which means I need to turn it over that way. But you can see that my cardstock is wider than the Betterpress plate. I've come up with a way of not worrying about that at all. So what I need to do is attach that my blue layer to my top plate. I need to just make sure that's laid or lined up in the right way. So I want to line up the edge of my cardstock with the edge of that text plate there. So I've done that. Now I'm going to just tape that into position. I'm just going to catch the very edges of that so we don't have tape marks after we've imprinted. So that's all lined up. Now I want to, I'm going to use the Under the Sea for this one. I used the metallic on the other one, but I want to perhaps go a little bit lighter. And I'm just going to ink up some of the text like this, okay? I don't need to do the whole amount because I've only got that small area that I want to stamp onto. And so I can run that through the machine. And back again. Now you will see the text a lot more on this one than you did on the last one. So there we are. We have that sitting on there. And I was actually made sure that some of the ink was darker on other areas because I do like that sort of fading away effect on the layer there. So let's take that away and the tape. But what you will also notice is that we have an area that isn't stamped because the piece of card is wider than the text stamp. But that's fine, that's fine. There is a way that we can sort that out. So we come back in with our original die that we used to die cut that with. Now what we want to do, because we have the stitch detail in there, which is actually a lot, which is really, really useful, we are going to line up the edge of the die along the edge of the text there. And we are just going to do that and try and find that position where the stitch detail just locks into position into what we've already die cut. So if you just take a little bit of time, you will find that the die cut will actually catch. And I've done that there. So you can see that I'm moving it now. What I've already die cut has caught in the dies that's there. And I've made sure that the edge is lined up with the edge of the text. So if I tape that into place to make sure that that doesn't move, I can run this back through the die cutting machine and shape and take off this edge. Now you could just cut it with scissors, and which is what I've done here. But if I come in with camera 2, what you will see, And this is just a small amount of detail. The chances are the person you give the card to would never notice. But you can see you have the stitch detail all the way running around the edge here. But this area here where I've cut it down to size, you don't have the stitch detail. It works perfectly well, and you can possibly disguise it. But if we run this through the die cutting machine now, I'll show you in a second. And what you need to do, you can run the whole thing through, it doesn't matter, or you can just run it through the machine just so as this part goes through the machine. And if you take that away, what you've actually done, you've trimmed it down to size, and it looks like that was the size it was already meant to be, and you still have that decorative edge on this side, whereas on this one here, I'll show you. You didn't. I say it's a really small detail, but I know it's a detail that us as makers would notice, and it would be something that would really, our eyes would be drawn to. So that's just a nice nifty little trick to use. So now that is, say, you'd be none the wiser that this layout wasn't this shape or this size originally. So what I can do now, I can add that to my card base. So there could be another layer. Ooh. So I'm going to put that in the center like so. So you can see the way that this is building the same as this card here. Also from the composition set, you can see we have the scallop area here. So I can add that on top. Obviously, we've shortened this layer here, so we need to adjust that scallop detail on top as well. So you can just take a pencil and just cut that down to size. You can just trim that down to size. You can just snip there. Apologies, I'm not actually looking at any of your comments. I do get quite engrossed in what I'm making. Hi, Wendy. Were the original butterflies made with a stencil or just by inking and blending over the dies? The original butterflies that I've done here were made in exactly the same way as this. These ones I blended a little bit with the brush before or after the ink was added. These ones weren't. I just swiped with the ink pad and away that I went. But basically everything was created in exactly the same way. So I'm going to put my scallop on the top there. Now we need to create this detail here. So I've cut myself 2 pieces. Again, this is an element from the compositions die set. So we have a rectangle here again with these stitch details. So I've just cut that twice, once out of blue and once out of yellow. I want the yellow side to be layered on top of the blue here, but I also want to cut the hearts into this. So again, from the compositions set, we have this die here with the strip of hearts on there. So all we need to do is layer this onto the top section or the colour that you want to show, and we're going to cut those hearts as apertures into this top layer. So I'm just placing that heart die on top of the yellow strip there. I'm just going to put this onto my die, my small plates. I'm going to secure that in place, so I don't want that to move. And then we can die cut this. Run that through. Now this die cut actually gives us 2 things. It will, when I take this die away, can you see that? Yeah. It will give us the hearts die cut as apertures into that yellow frame. Now I didn't line that up very well, so they're a little bit wonky, but you get the effect. And if I lay that onto the other rectangle strip, you now see that we have the blue hearts popping through, and it looks like you've got the 2 layers there. But also you have the benefit of, because you're cutting the aperture into the, or the heart apertures into the yellow layer, we also have tiny little heart dies there that we can just put aside and keep in the envelope for something later. You can use as confetti, or you can use to embellish the card, which we will do a little bit in a second as well. So although this is a little bit wonky, you'd spend more time making sure it lines up and stays straight, like this one here. You see, we have the apertures here, and we can change the colour of those apertures by layering that onto our second rectangle. So you get the idea. I mean, they're going off a little wonky, but hey, you get the idea, I think. So now we can add this strip to the front of our card, and you can see how easy it is just building a card with its layers using these compositions. You really don't have to think too much about it at all. Now, I'm not using one of the layouts that Lisa's provided, but once you've die cut everything and you have the elements in your hand, you'll find that you'll put those pieces down in quite naturally in different ways. So I'm just picking up those hearts. So those little hearts die cuts that came out of this strip here, you can add as little embellishments anywhere on the card. So I'll just add 3 dots of glue, and then I can just pop those hearts into position like so. These pickup tools are absolutely essential for me to do this sort of detail. Okay, and then we can choose one of our hearts, one of our butterflies to sit on to the front of the card there. Now, I think what I might do is just attach that with a couple of foam pads. And then, how are we doing for time? Okay. And then I shall come back to the Betterpress plate and we can stamp the sentiments for you as well. So we can add our butterfly there. And you can see just how lovely that is coming together. So just two colours I've used. We've got a third colour introduced because of the blending of the inks, but 2 colours, different textures, and just by adding some text onto there, it really does sort of add another element for you. So let me see where we are. We've got all sorts of bits going on. Let's move that to one side. Now, obviously, we do need sentiments here, and we have these sentiments on our butterfly silhouettes. All the capital sentiments here, they are on one stamp, and we have the love on another stamp. And I'm going to do those onto yellow cardstock, actually. So if I bring in my plate again and take this one away, we don't need that one at the moment. This is the cardstock that I'll be stamping onto. So I'm just layering that onto the magnetic plate just to see where I am size wise, just so as I can make sure that everything is all lined up perfectly. So if I use in the center of the plate there, I'm going to put my love word there, I think, and then these are the smaller ones, these smaller words. Again, you have all 4 sentiments together. We want to lay that down so it's with the design facing upwards is the way that you're working there. So if you can, shall I put it onto this layer? onto here, so perhaps you can see a bit easier. My cardstock fits and covers those. So what I want to do is now make sure, I'm just going to give my plate a wipe, actually. We have some of the text. That's because I laid the plate on top of that. There we are. So I want to make sure that I tape my cardstock pretty centrally onto this top platform here. Now you're going to find the way that's easiest to do this for you. So I'm just going to make sure that that works. I can't see any of the stamps underneath, which means that my cardstock is in the right place. So I can take that away. And now I can think about stamping these words. Now, what colour? Should we do these in black or should we do them in blue? I'm going to do them twice, I think. Oh, no, let's do them in blue. I'm being indecisive. Okay, so I've taken the Coastline ink, the metallic blue ink, and I'm going to stamp or ink up both of these stamps until you can see that all the details, all the design has got a really nice coverage of ink on there. You may get some ink onto your magnetic plate around the outside. That's fine. It won't transfer onto your cardstock. So once you're happy with the ink that you've used, put on your top platform, and then we can run this through our die cutting machine. Again, and I will keep saying this, I don't think I'll ever be over it, just how easy it goes through the die cutting machine. You really feel like it's not doing anything, but each time I'm amazed at it. Each time it does produce. So I can take the top platform off, I can turn it around, and you can see that I've stamped onto texture cardstock. You can see the texture in the background. I've used the metallic ink. You can still see the metallic detail of the ink, but the crispness of the stamps and those words are perfect. Even though I'm stamping onto a coloured cardstock, that's textured. Yeah, so it's absolutely brilliant. It really does open up the world of stamping for you, I think, using the Betterpress plate. Let's move that. Right. Now we can die cut these. Now I think this will fit onto my little plates. Yes, it will. So I'll be able to die cut both of these together. So I'm going to take the die for the love there, and definitely going to be taping these into place. Like so. Now obviously I'm doing this onto coloured cardstock. You can also do this onto white cardstock, absolutely no problem at all. But because I don't have a huge amount of white onto my card here, I thought it'd just be nice to use something a little bit different. Now, all of these sentiments are, as well as being stamped all in one go, they're also die cut all in one go, which is ideal because it means you don't have to keep track of these tiny little dies. And it does mean that you get to build up a little stash of sentiments, because it's unlikely that you'd use all of these all on the one go. But it's quite handy to have them already sort of die cut and already stamped, sitting in your envelope, just in case you have a last minute project that you need to get done quickly. So we can just take that away. You can see already just how easy those pop out. Just pop that on there, and we'll take the love one as well. Remove the die, pop that over there. So we have our sentiments, which really nice to be able to stamp in something other than black. I love stamping my sentiments in black, but sometimes you just need that something just that little bit softer, I think, don't you? So we have any combination really, so love and best wishes to finish that off. I think that would work really nicely. You could add with lots of love. Oh, that's a bit, can't quite see that. So there's lots of different combinations. Actually, I think I might leave that way. I quite like the way that the love has just framed that corner there with the text. So there are the two cards for you. Lots of detail going on in both of those, lots of different techniques, but just with 3 sets, you can create something really intricate like this. We could have just had just one of these elements on the card also, and it would have looked just as lovely, I think. But it's really nice to be able to have a play with colours, and it's nice to be able to stamp and have the effects of those special inks as well. So you have the shine of the metallic ink coming through on the words here and also in the butterfly as well. So hopefully that's given you a few ideas, reminded you about the composition die sets. Again, these are really a must if you just want to make quick cards and you don't want to think about it too much, or if you're sort of stuck as to how you want to create, which again, it comes to us all. There are times when you want to make something, but you can't always piece something together. And pairing them with the Betterpress, say, it just gives you lots of different options. Oh, thank you, Susan. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And say, I do like to give you sort of the details and different ideas as we go along. Hi, Wendy. Oh, no worries about being late. Hopefully I answered your question for you as well. But this video will be available, or is available, to rewatch as many times as you like on Lisa's channel on YouTube. So Crafting with Lisa Horton. So it's always there to be a resource for you, as well as all the other live videos that I've done from other weeks, as has Cheryl and Lisa's Friday night lives as well. So if you want to catch up with anything, it's always available on YouTube for you. So I'll leave that with you there today. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you get your Betterpress out and have a go. Again, Lisa has these ones. These are the newest ones, but there are Christmas Betterpress plates as well. So if you do want to sort of have some festive crafting, then you've also got that opportunity. The text press plate here, I think, will be absolutely brilliant for Christmas with all of the dies that Lisa's just released. So again, keep that in mind. But I shall love you and leave you. Hopefully see you around with Lisa on Friday night. And I shall see you all again next week. Take care, everyone.